scholarships for seniors that are going off to college that have participated in music through high school, and there are 3 awarded every year, and our activities help with providing a big portion of those funds.
Tri-M has been steadily growing throughout the past few years. This year we've seen an increase from 30 to 40 members, and we're going to continue to try to continue that trend into the next years. Next year we're going to continue working and coordinating with the Forest Lake Music Boosters, and we are planning to work more with the elementary school and middle school students to further promote music and the wonderful impact it has on their lives. That's all we have.
Question on qualifications to be a member of the Honor Society. What are the qualifications?
To be a member of Tri-M, you must be in a band, orchestra, or choir ensemble, and you must carry a 3.0 GPA.
How long have we had Tri-M, Mr. Caldwell?
Since 2012.
Nice job, Laura.
That's my job.
I just didn't want to put you girls on the spot. You did such an excellent job. So I really enjoy reading that on the graduation ceremony program that's included on there, because it's a very important part of your academic life and your work throughout your school years. So I really like seeing that on there. I'll look for your names.
I was going to say the same thing. It's fun to see who's involved in that. You guys are all excellent program, very well spoken. So thank you so much for educating us on Tri-M.
Thank you for having us.
My son Dylan was also in Tri-M, so I do know about the program, and it's a fabulous program. You guys work hard. It's in correlation with National Honor Society, so you do have to have, there's a lot of qualifications to be able to apply for it, and it just incorporates such a great part of the music program. So I know all the volunteerism, and it's just leadership that you're learning and being out in the community and kind of promoting music. So I thank you for that, and thanks for coming tonight. Great job.
A couple of weeks ago, we had the Bethel concert. Give us an update on that experience.
Okay. It was very successful. How many people do we have? About? Yeah, we had a couple hundred people that were there. All of the feedback that we heard was fantastic. We have a lot of people.
They just posted the live stream, Lakes 5 TV, Lakes 5, so yes, Lakes Area TV just posted the video of our performance. If you want to go look it up on YouTube,
I just wanted to add, I should have said this earlier, but your presentation was excellent. I'm just slightly disappointed that you didn't sing the presentation.
We're the band. We have a band.
Our instrumental?
Thank you so much. Great presentation.
Yes, thank you.
And at this time, I did, under scheduled and unscheduled visitors, miss a green card. So I do have one green card here. So I would invite Diane Smith to come up and speak. I apologize for missing that.
That's fine. Much rather hear that. So good job, girls. Hi, I'm Diane Smith. I am a Forest Lake resident. I'm a homeschool mom, so I don't have any children in your school. But I do know children who do attend Forest Lake schools. I love your sign that says excellence beyond expectation. And these 3 ladies have certainly shown that. So way to go, girls. Really love to see that in our community. I have some concerns and some questions. As a parent, I'm also a teacher. I teach high school biology at a homeschool cooperative, so I'm with a lot of high school kids. I'm surrounded by young kids too, being a parent. Equity Alliance is a word that has come up in the White Bear District, Forest Lake, Roseville, South St. Paul, Inver Grove Heights, I believe. I think I've got them all, I'm not sure. But And I think there's some trouble going on. And I think maybe, Rob, you probably can speak to that there are things probably that you're disappointed to even hear, and I'm sure you're going to touch on that tonight. So I was glad to see that you're going to be addressing that. I just have questions, I have concerns. One of them is that their executive director, Alex Ramadas, I'm not sure if I'm saying his name correctly, has branded the word Equity Alliance as toxic. And that's a really strong word to use for something that has been adopted by our Forest Lake community. You know, you guys brought on Equity Alliance, I'm sure with really good intentions and thinking this would be something that would help our kids and make sure that students feel welcome. I looked upon their website, and within their website, they claim to be a 501c3. What is interesting about this, and maybe this is part of the toxicity that has started, but that Equity Alliance, even though they claim to be a 501c3 entity, there is no record that they are a 501c3. In fact, they may go under a third party called Alliance for Educational Equity. And I'm not sure if you're aware of that, Rob, or if you've got that word. So that is not being very truthful to you. So I guess maybe I'm here to show some light. Maybe you'll already know this, maybe you're aware. But any kind of entity that is claiming to be something they're not causes me to have red flags, and the whole community should be starting to ask questions. And you guys probably already have asked the questions. And I trust you that you have. But that concerns me, and I'm sure there's quite a lot of money that is involved with this Equity Alliance. Another red flag is I thought, well, who is Equity Alliance? And so I just looked some stuff up. And what I have discovered is in Sartell, Minnesota, they were interviewed by a 4th grade student on some news channel. This 4th grader was embarrassed because she was asked to fill out a survey. And I am not sure if Forest Lake gave that survey. Is that something you guys also give surveys? I suppose that's how Equity Alliance operates, because they give surveys to children and then they decide what your community's needs are. Would that be fair to say? Okay, so not sure if you guys gave a survey. I know White Bear Lake has, because I read it. And when I saw the survey, I, as an adult, was embarrassed. Actually blushed reading it. The questions on it were not something the child should be reading. The student not only was embarrassed, she was told that Equity Alliance had recommended, they included, that they should not be telling the parents about this survey. So this is another third red flag that's super concerning. Anything done in the dark is not appropriate, as we all know. It should be brought to light. Parents are the educators, and I know you guys respect that because you hold listening sessions and you want to hear from us, and that is so appreciated, so thank you. So I just have lots of questions. Hopefully you'll be addressing a lot of them, Rob, but that they're a non-viable nonprofit, they're not a viable nonprofit organization. I've also heard, well, I hear things, but I want to look it up myself. I went on Equity Alliance's website, and I went under who the team is. It says our team. There's no names listed under our team. So they have either disbanded or, I don't know, maybe you can answer that question as well. Rob, you are on the Joint Powers, is that correct?
So I'd like to remind you, this is not a question and
Oh, I
answer.
apologize.
To speak to the board.
I apologize.
And we're coming up on time. You have about 30 more seconds.
Okay, so to wrap it up, hopefully you'll be addressing these at the board. I just want the community to be aware that any entity that suggests children do not disclose information that a survey they're filling out to their parents is inappropriate, and it should be absolutely done away with. And I have heard also that Equity Alliance may want to rebrand themselves as Story Arc.
Story Arc is a beautiful operation that is done by a woman named Stephanie. Trying to think of her last name. Doesn't matter. Stephanie is a woman who started her own storyarc.org. And I don't believe in another entity that is falling, or maybe all done, I don't know, maybe they're all done, should not then rebrand because they're toxic and then take on and glob on to somebody else's organization. That would be something that would be really a bad thing to do and not appropriate. So hopefully you guys will address these concerns I have as a parent and someone who loves kids and loves teaching and loves our community. So thank you so much for letting me talk.
Thank you. All right, so now we'll move on to Forest Lake Area High School Activity and Athletic State Participants, Director Hennon. And I apologize, I have my glasses on, I couldn't read the paper.
Again, thanks for inviting us out here. We have a ton of multi-sport guys, and there's a big guys and gals. We had a huge track meet down in Mayo today, so some of our state teams are all down there. But I got a couple that are here from a couple different sports, and some of the individuals that showed up. I just want to thank you guys for employing me. I really feel like I got the best job in the district. 99% of what I do is very, very, very positive and very fun to be at. And a lot of people say, hey, why don't you go home or why don't you do this? It's fun to be here and to be at the events and to see. The best part of the job for me is being at the events. Anybody can schedule a bus, make sure coaches are doing what they're supposed to. The best part is watching the students perform and the joy they bring to not only themselves, but our community and our student body and all that. So we're going to start with our teams. I got a couple coaches here for teams. We'll start with our speech team coming up. Tim Newcomb is our speech coach, and he's got one athlete, and we had a bunch of men to say about. Let him talk about him.
Before you go, Tim, before you go, could I just remind parents that if they want to take pictures, if they have students, just come around here. Feel free to take the best picture you can.
Well, thank you very much for having us here and giving me some time to recognize our state participants. We had 4 this year that made their way through the Section 4AA championship onto the state tournament. And we had one 9th grader, Chloe Larson, competed in the category of storytelling. She placed 2nd at the Section 4AA tournament and then competed at state. Then we had Laura Kelly, who competed, actually double entered all season in the categories of humorous interpretation and duo. When you go to the section tournament, you have to choose which one to enter in. Laura chose to enter in humorous interpretation, where she placed 2nd at the section tournament and then competed at state. Also a all-conference performer on our team. Eric Kittleson was a senior for us this year, a 6-year team member, competed in the category of informative, placed 3rd at the section tournament, and then competed at state. And then we had Katie Capon, who was an extemp reader for us, an 11th grader, placed 2nd at the section tournament and was a state finalist, was actually tied for state champion in the category of extemp reading, and when the tiebreakers were applied, she ended up in 2nd place at the state tournament. And then all of them went straight from the state tournament on April 22nd to the Bethel concert, where they also performed there. So it was a busy day of live, in-person performance, which was great to be at after a full year of everything being virtual. So thank you very much for your support.
Thanks, Tim.
Yeah, thank you.
As long as we're on forensics with speech debate, we didn't get any students here today, but we had 3 students that qualified in December and early January for our state debate, coached by Rachel De Sabrino, recent graduate, probably 3 years out now. She's now a student down at the U of M. Does a fantastic job with those students. So Zoe Broughton, Hannah Winnick, and Cassidy Akes all qualified for state debate. Doing very well. So turn it over to one more coach here. So Sherry Alm. The 2 out of the 4 years that I've been here, she's been to the state tournament. 1 year we hopefully would have made it, we got cut short because of COVID. We were in the shutdown there that year, so we'll let her take over for the volleyball.
All right, and I will welcome 2 of my athletes that I drug here. Casey was uplifting, being a very good athlete, and Kathleen is helping with our voice program as well. But this is my 26th year here coaching. That doesn't come around, I guess, that often anymore. But we were honored again to represent Forest Lake at the state tournament this year. As Mike said, that is 3 out of the 4 possible years that we could go that we have made it down there, and our plans are certainly to return with our fine young ladies again. I'm sure they have speeches prepared.
We'll grant you no more than 30 minutes.
But we're glad that they came. But I also want to say we have always had outstanding academics through our program. So we are again gold champions, earning that GPA requirement for that again. And we just have fine student athletes, and we're proud to represent Forest Lake.
So I take it these gals are not seniors?
No.
Yeah. That's my question. What grade are you guys in?
We also had a couple 10th graders that were pivotal players for our team, so expectations are high.
And heartbreakers at state, if we won our first 2, both fantastic. When both of them went 5, and I was like, and I told Sherry afterward, hey, you played 10 sets. That's amazing. Even though you got 2 games, you had 10 sets down there, which was awesome.
Next Great. Awesome. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Sherry. I just want to thank you for all those years of coaching. That's just a tribute to you, how good our teams have done, and what a role model you are for the girls that you coach. So thank you so much.
All right, cross country running. So I think every year since I've been here, and probably many before that, the cross country team has made it to state. We have 2 wonderful students that had to miss the track meet today to stay back for an AP stats test. Is that what's today? So they had to stay for an AP stats test. They thought about driving down. The coach said they could drive down and run the 4x4, but they're in Rochester, so they opted to come here instead. They probably drew the short straw there. But, also, as long as we got Annabelle staying up here, Kylie Woods. Annabelle's also in Nordic, and our Nordic team was 3rd in the state this year for girls, and most of them are in track also. They're state champions a year ago. She goes, why didn't we come last year when we were state champions? But it was during COVID, we didn't bring anybody in to the school board meeting. So both programs very, very strong. John Fick is the coach for our girls cross country, and then Ryan Wright and Ben Fick were our Nordic coaches this year. So did a fantastic job. So I think you need to ask them some questions.
Do you have any questions?
What's your time? What's your record?
For what?
When you don't do 5K, what's the high school distance?
For Nordic?
For cross country?
Or for cross country? 5K.
It is a 5K?
Yeah, my fastest time is like 19:45.
And mine's like a low 22.
Yeah, so really good.
That's still great. What do you think of our new track?
Oh, I love it.
It's really changed.
We're so sad to be leaving. Like, I wish I had more years on it.
We've got new hurdles and the new high jump pit. They're really awesome. It's great to use.
And yes, she's a hurdler and a high jumper.
I just want to say, for all the years we've not had a track, and our teams have been phenomenal with no track.
Yes.
So just think what expectations are going to be now.
Yeah.
So I'm so glad you guys, so you're seniors now?
Yeah.
Okay. So I get to have a little more time, a little.
Yes, just a little.
Just a little bit.
Yeah, we have our first meet next Tuesday.
I know.
First
Excited for that.
Excited to see it. Do you know where you're going next year?
Yeah, so I'm going to University of North Dakota, and I am going for nursing.
I'm going to lacrosse, like UW class for pre-med, and I'm doing track then.
So you won't be doing track, you won't be doing anything?
No, I really want to just focus on like getting good grades in nursing.
A hard field.
Yeah.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming, girls.
A few accolades for the individual. Daniel Van Acker, he was third in cross country this year. Nora Hushhagen was sixth for the girls team in cross country. In Nordic, we had a second place team of Ella Nisnik and Chloe Erickson in the relay. It was a new event this year, and they placed second by like 0.25 seconds. They did it, it was cold, and they split them into different heats. The team that beat them wasn't in the same heat, so they weren't next to each other. Jordan Parent, who was a junior, was seventh, and then Noah Erickson was eighth in boys. So those are some highlights from there. Next one, we got Jazzy Stan, gymnast. So Jazzy qualified for state in the vault. She probably wanted us to bring him in last year too, and we were second in the state last year in gymnastics. But had a few injuries and a few things happened this year that derailed us, but proud of her accomplishment of getting there. Just want to highlight that she's also a homeschool student. So Daniel Van Acker also is. So it's a nice combination of bringing those kids in and being part of our, our Ranger family and our Ranger territory, being homeschool students. So Lindsay Perron is our head gymnastics coach. She's a teacher down at Forest Lake Elementary. Yeah. I always forget which one's View and Lake.
What I love, Mike, is that we have a lot of past athletes coming back to coach.
Yes.
I know it's in a lot of multiple sports, and that is just amazing and great for me, just to have them come back and have that history.
Yeah.
It's just awesome.
I just wanted to mention, I went to my first gymnastics meet in the news phase, and it was so entertaining. There's just stuff going on everywhere. Over there's the floor, and it was amazing to see how good our team is doing.
It's really fun. We had a lot of new girls come in this year, so I think next year we'll have a lot of people really step up.
And how many were on the team total?
This year we had 19.
Oh, excellent. And are you graduating?
I am graduating this year, yes.
What are you going to do next year?
I plan on taking a gap year to complete National Guard military training, and then following year I'll finish my pre-med degree.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
That's the one.
Congratulations.
Colin, you the last one out there? So wrestling had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 state entrants this year. Colin made it, was it heavyweight? Yep. Pumped up to. So he weighed in about, he probably had to put on a little bit of weight, but probably 205. He was a light heavyweight, battling, but made it through sections and he represented us at state. So that was fantastic. To highlight just some of the other wrestlers that were there, Daniel Van Acker was first place in wrestling as a state champion. Notice he was third in cross country. He got a chance to do really well in track this spring too. Blasco Aspen was our first female champion in wrestling.
Yes.
So she ran wrestling state champion. Mark Rendell was a sophomore, was third. Jacob Avo as a junior was fourth. Parker Lyden, who's a sophomore, was fifth. And then Grant Marr qualified, but unfortunately had his appendix taken out in between when he qualified and the state tournament started. So he wasn't able to compete there. So this is Colin Mcgeary. Anything you got to say, Captain?
I
love when I put him on the spot.
What grade are you in?
I'm a senior.
Oh, okay.
How many years have you wrestled, Colin?
I wrestled for about 4 years in youth, and then in high school about 3, because there was quite a bit of a hiatus from first grade to high school, because got a little demotivated because I was bigger than most of the kids, which was not the case this year. But yeah, so I was bigger than most of the kids my age, so I had to wrestle kids that were older and had more experience, so I got a little demotivated there. But got convinced to come back and started sophomore year, and then got on varsity junior and went to state senior. So.
Wow, excellent. Thank you for sharing that. So that was your first time at state?
Yeah.
Wow, that is awesome. Congratulations.
Thanks.
So what is your plan for next year?
To go to Purdue University, do computer engineering hopefully, but they only do like a first year engineering like thing when you get in, so you have to apply after your first year. But I have to do computer engineering.
It's a great school. Best of luck. Good luck. It's great.
Thanks for coming. So another Forest Lake alum, Joe Kuchar, is our head wrestling coach. He had softball tonight, he's coaching his daughter's team. So I told him to go coach your daughter, I'll handle it for you, so you don't have to come. So others that aren't here, just to highlight, Malia McKinnon was a state entrance in tennis last fall. So Corey's on the board here. Grace True and Delaney Nichols both made it in one in swimming, Delaney is a diver. So they made it in swimming this past fall. And Matthias Longsdorf was our alpine skier that qualified for state this year. Yeah, so very blessed to lead that group of great coaches and great athletes. And I feel very fortunate to be where I'm at. So thank you for giving us that opportunity.
I have a question about how did, the teams during COVID, and I know all the stress and not be able to compete and have all that, and that, as far as the last couple of years, across the different high schools, did everybody struggle with the same thing?
Yeah, I think, I think mental health for our athletes, our coaches did a good job. They were getting on Zoom or getting on Google Meets and, meeting up once, twice a day, just try to get the kids in front of each other and talking to each other, especially at the beginning. For part of it, we were out of school and they were letting us compete. So that was after Christmas when we came back that first year. So we lost the whole spring the first year, and then we got through got right to the end of volleyball, we get the sections. Because volleyball started late that year, and we took that break and kind of ended November, December. But then we started back up in January 4th. So it was definitely different for sure. Coaches had to be creative to try to make those connections. I would say teaching and being an athletic director and activities director as well as trying to get those connections. That's the best part of the job for your coaches, for your leaders, for everybody, is the personal connections and relationships you get. So trying to be creative to make sure you can find some relationships with them when, the team meals are cut out, everything that most student athletes go out for an activity for. You have some that are super, love the sport, or just ultra driven. Most of them want to be there because they're with their friends and they're having a good time, and all the other thing that goes around the competition. Competition is great, but all the time you get to hang out, and all those life lessons you learn just hanging out with your team and doing that, they get to miss out on a lot of that. That was probably the hardest part, trying to keep those team meals and keep them, apart. It was hard. They wanted to be together. So.
Glad they're back.
Yes, we are so glad they're back. Hopefully it never happens again. But I think we'll be more well prepared. We'll learn a lot of things dealing with this. So.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, Mike, you certainly do an excellent job, and as an athletic director, we know that those relationships are so important, and you just are a shining star with that aspect and all the aspects, and you are everywhere. I saw you so many times, and I'm like, have you even had dinner? And you're like, well, I don't know, might be in the microwave when I get home.
Although takes care of me. Jim brought me a burger last night when I got the text. You want me to bring you something to eat? Yep. Surprised me. Actually, his son texted me. I get that every once in a while from Will Caldwell taking care of me. So,
thank you for all your dedication.
You're welcome. Thank you.
And it's really nice to have these student athletes back in front of us and actually see them.
Amen.
Yeah, I think we did a slideshow last year.
Yeah. It's just not the same.
No, I agree.
Thank you.
Yep, thanks for having me.
Yes, thank you. Next, we will move on to Forest Lake Area Schools Indian Education Program Overview and Public Meeting with Brad Moore.
Good evening. I'm going to ask that Rebecca Wolf also join me up here. She is the chair of the Forest Lake Area Schools American Indian Education Program. We're actually going to be doing a blended presentation because I'm going to be speaking a little bit about some of the student achievement aspects, and then we're going to go virtual with our program coordinator, Chris Johnson. So a little bit, just to give you a quick refresher on where the funding comes from, how we get our student counts and so forth. First off, make sure that you remember that these programs are based and rooted in treaties that have been initiated between the US government and the tribal nations. The design is to improve the educational and social status for American Indian students and families. When you look at this slide, you'll notice that we have two different pots of funding. We have the federal pot, which is through the formation or the completion of Title VI forms, and then the state pot that's been there for about 5 years. That's a more recent add. The numbers that you can see have slowly ticked upward. There's a little bit of a discrepancy in the numbers, and that's in how the federal and the state governments count our Native students. One of the things that we strive to do and continue to strive to do is to more accurately count and recognize the students who should be a part of the program. When looking at this particular graph, what you're looking at is, you can see with the demographic data, there's a blue bar and an orange bar, and there are different ways that parents, when they register, can sign up. So here we count all of them, no matter how, if they're going with the American Indian only designation or in part of the 2 or more category. So on to the assessment data. What we are going to do is use our FAST data, something that's been in place for about 5 years. We're going to be taking a look at both the risk categories, where students are monitored if they're at risk of falling behind, and growth categories. We have a span of 5 years of data here. Just a reminder, the black line is separating years, and we've separated between Native and non-Native students. So one of the things that I'd like to point out is blue and green are good, red and yellow are causes for concern. And when you're looking at the 2 different bars traveling here, you can see that they are close when measuring Native and non-Native students in their risk for falling behind. And then you get to last year. The pandemic did a number on many people, but it sure seemed to emphasize a loss in achievement or growth and achievement for Native students. That one, excuse me, this was for math. Same pattern for reading, although you can see that there's some undulation in who's at risk when comparing the 2 units, but then you see the same pattern from last year. Contrast that with growth. One of the things that seems to be consistent is when looking at this, there's growth that's occurring. The non-Native students were growing at a faster rate, except for last year, where you see that Native students did grow at a faster rate of achievement. So this is at odds with, say, the risk factor, but it is pointing out that they were perhaps a little bit further behind to begin with. This is for reading. Again, you can see that following the same trend, the Native students did outperform in terms of growth our non-Native students. We also take a look at the systemic growth, and that's through the MCAs. This is looking at all of the students. All of the data was looking at all of the students. But remember that this is one data point. And you can see that for math, 60% of students were tested. Again, you can see that there's a definite gap in achievement between native and non-native students. Also present, this time with 80% of the students testing. Part of the reason for this presentation is so that the district, as well as the Teaching and Learning Department, in partnership with the parent committee, come up with a plan on what can we do in order to address this disparity. And with that, I'm going to step aside for Rebecca and Chris to take over.
Go ahead, Chris, we should be able to hear you now. You're going to want to unmute Chris. One moment, Chris, we're having a slight audio problem. Go ahead, Chris. Hang on, Chris, we're having one minor issue. We're going to grab a mic so you can see it. Go ahead, Chris.
Can you hear me now?
Yep, go ahead. We can hear you now.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you. I think I'm supposed to be sharing my screen, or can we use the one I'm seeing up there right now?
We can use the one you're seeing up there right now.
Awesome. And I'll just tell you when to move the next screen.
I've got a button.
Okay. Perfect. There we go. Okay. Well, thank you, Bonjour, Ani. Hello, everybody. This is our greeting in Ojibwe. Rebecca, thank you for taking the time to come and hang out with us here. Rebecca has been our chairperson for the last 3 years, at least, and has been on the committee for quite some time. So we really appreciate her commitment and dedication to the Indian education program. We are just hoping to plan and grow our parent committee. So we really appreciate her hard work and dedication. So, Mitch, thank you. Okay, so we'll move on to the next screen. Oh, thank you. Bonjour, Ani. That means greetings and hello in our traditional Ojibwe language. My name is Chris Johnson. I'm the American Indian Program Coordinator for Forest Lake. My Anishinaabe name is Washkaneshiganikwe, which means the Lady of Light in our Ojibwe language. I'm an enrolled member of the Minnesota Chippewa tribe, Mississippi Band from Leech Lake, and I am of the Bird and the Eagle clan. Typically, that's how Native people introduce themselves, so that is traditional for us. On behalf of the American Indian Education Program and the Parent Advisory Committee, our APAC for the district, we thank you for this time to highlight our program, provide information, and discuss how we continue to work together to support our common goals of equity and inclusion for our students, families, and district communities. Next one. I will ask you to read our land acknowledgement.
We'd like to take this time and opportunity to respectfully acknowledge that this meeting is being held on the traditional lands of both the Ojibwe and the Dakota Indigenous people. And we would like to pay our respects to both their elders, both past and present.
Thank you, we wish. Next slide. Okay, so we'll go through some of the basics here. The American Indian Education Program. Our program goal is to provide equitable, intentional, and targeted educational opportunities to every American Indian student while fostering cultural identity and pride. The purpose of our program, the purpose of the American Indian Education Program, is to increase academic achievement, increase our graduation rate, and to improve the school climate of American Indian students in a culturally appropriate manner. In Minnesota, this program addresses 5 specific goal areas with a special focus on ensuring that all children are ready for school, all racial and economic achievement gaps between students are closed or minimized, and that all students are college and or career ready. So our program services focus on student academic support and mentoring, family community resources and advocacy, community cultural events and activities, college visits and post-secondary preparations, and finally curriculum resources. Next slide, please. Some of our program highlights for middle schools are middle school affinity groups, which I just completed today. Got our whole group together this afternoon. So we have monthly gatherings, most now that we can be in person, and also individually as needed. So the purpose of the affinity groups is to build community by connecting students first with their peers, and then connecting families with our American Indian Education Program staff and committee. And then also, we like to explore culture. A lot of our students have various degrees of cultural knowledge. It's our goal to provide an open, safe place and environment for our students to explore, identify, and discuss our culture along with their questions. And then we also talk about goals and challenges that arise. So it's really an opportunity, first off, to connect with the students and spend time with them, building a relationship and trust. Secondly, then we offer some type of cultural component. Today we were making dream catchers. Everybody was pretty cool until they had to start doing it. So it was a little harder than they thought. So there was a lot of focus, which I was very impressed with. But that's an example. And meanwhile, we're talking and we're discussing things about, oh gosh, we cover all kinds of different topics. We talked about respect today. We talked about honoring other cultures as well as ours. So we just kind of go with the flow and listen and talk about what students, what situations may arise. But I think that the most important part is that they're comfortable. We've built a relationship and a safe place for them to discuss these issues. Next slide. And for our high school students, what I do is we meet with the students. What we have is called check-in meetings. And we do this at least once a semester or a trimester. And as needed, all of our check-ins and all of our students, we try to get them together in a group and then as needed. So they connect with us first, and then after that they feel more comfortable when a situation arises, or you have to put on your grade hat, an academic hat for them. So a lot of times it's either virtual or on-site, which is finally great to have. And again, we work with groups and individuals. So the purpose is to connect with an adult mentor, somebody like myself who monitors their school success and well-being. And then we provide support for their future academic and personal goals. Next slide. One of the other program highlights that a few of our students have been able to participate in is the Indigenous Leaders Circle. It's short as ILC. And what we did, especially during COVID, was I offered a weekly open time, so from 3 to 4 during Wednesdays. I would always have my Zoom open or my Google open, and students would check in. And sometimes I'd get 5 students, sometimes I'd get 10, and then sometimes 1 or 2, just depending on their needs. But throughout that time, we always have 1 monthly group meeting. And at that time, it's where we, it's also a multi-district program. So we have students from Amber Grove Heights, South St. Paul, I think it's across 4 districts right now. So it's an opportunity for students to meet other peers from other school districts. And I think one of the biggest things that we've found that it's a great opportunity for them to connect. We have a monthly group meeting, and then we do projects during that group meeting, and then the rest of the month on Wednesdays, we just connect who's that are wanting to connect. And this is specifically for our 9th through 12th graders. And what I usually do about this time of year is I'm looking at our 8th graders to find out who may be interested in joining the group. I found that the 8th graders are, as they transition into high school, they're a lot more open, and we find that once we can connect with them at that point, we have a higher success rate. Anyway, the core values for our Indigenous Leader Circle is leadership with traditional values, community service, and connections. We talk about cultural and racial equity, and then also mentorship. It's an honor for me to work with these students and provide some of the guidance and leadership and coaching that they really desire and look forward to. So that being said, we'll go ahead and move to the next one. And Rebecca, I'm going to let you read this one off, our program highlights.
We try to do monthly PAC meetings. We've been doing them all online the last 2 years. Next year, we're hoping to be back in person. In the second part of the year, we generally do family fun nights once a month, and we were finally able to be back in person, which was amazing. And for those, we generally bring in either a speaker or a performer. We have Indigenous food provided, and it's just a time for everybody to be together and make new connections and have fun and learn stuff, and it's really kind of amazing, and that's always been my favorite part of it. We have program advisors who come in and talk to the parents or the students as needed, and something we're doing next week is our graduation honor. This year, instead of just honoring our seniors, we're honoring all of our students because they've lived through some stuff. It's been a really rough couple of years. We wanted to acknowledge all of them this year. So this is the first time we're doing that. We're going to see how it goes. Hopefully we have a pretty good turnout. You are all invited if you would like to come. You should have received invitations. It's Tuesday night. We're very excited for it. I think we've got quite a few seniors this year too, so we're very proud of them. Back to you, Chris.
Okay, some of our growing goals as we look forward and look ahead to the future, we'd like to expand our program services to include elementary sites. Curriculum support and program awareness is basically where we're at now. We are in the process of putting together our curriculum and our cultural trunks, which is something I've been working with the wonderful ladies in the curriculum department, and we're going to try and have somewhat of a resource center. And when we collect all of our items from this year, we're going to try to put that in front of our district staff so they have an opportunity to use some of our artifacts, and they're aligned with the standards, with state standards, and so we're trying to put together kind of a resource center for that curriculum. We've also made a large purchase in the last 2 years with books for the media center. Rebecca has been very forward on that, leading us to some of the wonderful books. So I think we purchased close to $5,000 in books that we will be distributing to all of the school districts, and they're age appropriate, and again, they align with our state standards. One of the other things we'd like to do is expand our Indian Parent Advisory Committee. Right now, there's a dedicated handful of people like Rebecca and Gretchen, and we have the support staff of with Brad, his leadership and guidance, and then we have Rachel for the admin, has been amazing. So we really want to expand our parent committee to include more parents and a variety of potential staff and whoever else we can find that will be supportive of this community. And then finally, we would like to provide professional development and learning opportunities for district, our Indian education and staff and parent committee. So that's one of the things we're going to be looking at. We were looking at getting Anton Truer in, who's a renowned speaker. So I'll be tracking you guys down to find out when some of the staff training is in in August, and see what we can arrange to have some of our speakers come in and help with that equity training. And then finally, okay, and as Rebecca mentioned, whoops, here we are here. Oh, we're at the growing, so you can go to the next one. And finally, back one step. There, right there. As Rebecca mentioned, we are having our all student and senior honoring celebration. We'd like to extend a special invitation to the entire school board to attend our honoring celebration. I think it's an opportunity to experience what we call an honoring, and that is Tuesday, May 10th, and the time is 6 to 8. We'll be providing a feast from 6 to 6:30, and our program will be 6:30 to 7:30. And like Rebecca mentioned, we will be honoring all of our students as well as focusing on the graduates. And we'll be right over in the high school auditorium, and our feast will be in the pre-function area. I believe we'll have a drum group and a keynote speaker, and I think it's a great opportunity, again, to connect with our community. And if you are able to attend, please RSVP to Rachel so we can make sure we have your name and information, and also introduce you as well. So again, we'd like to extend that invitation. And then finally, miigwech and thank you. And feel free to ask any questions.
I would just like, Brad has sent out an invitation.
Yeah. We sent that. Thank you, Brad.
Do we have any other questions, comments?
I just want to say thank you for being here and for giving that presentation. Now, it's been so exciting to have this program, and it's grown. And was that correct that there's 84 students at the high school?
I believe so.
That's what I think I
No, is that so hopeful?
No, that's the federal distinction. Between the two, we have about 120 district-wide.
Wow.
Historically, it's important to note that Native students are undercounted.
Mm-hmm. And so we're hoping to be in the elementary schools at some point, correct?
Yes, we used to have an elementary program, which was wonderful. That's how I got involved. My son was involved in it for 6 years, and it was fantastic. But unfortunately, we lost our teacher, and then COVID happened pretty much at about the same time. So we're rebuilding. We need to find somebody who would like to come and teach our kids. And so we're working on that. I went to the MIEA conference a couple weeks ago, and I made a really great connection with a guy who has 3 or 4 ideas. So I'm meeting with him in a few weeks, and we're going to go through it and see if he has anybody who can come and be our elementary program teacher. So we're hoping that we can get that ramped back up again, because I have found anyway, that that's a really great way to develop community. When you're in kindergarten and you're seeing the same kids over and over and over the course of a few years, we built a family, and it was really wonderful. And it all everybody aged up, they grew, so now we're trying to rebuild it again.
Well, that's great news, because I knew we did at one point, so.
We did.
Good to know.
And obviously our elementary students, they're involved in the family fun nights and stuff like that. We just don't have a specific program for them currently. We're hoping that next year that changes.
Okay, well, thank you for all your hard work.
You're welcome. Thank you for being here. And please come on Tuesday, or any of our Indian committee or parent committee meetings. Anybody's welcome at any time. Anybody. Come and visit with us.
Anybody else? Comments, questions?
Mr. Chair, I would add that in the early days, Michael Hirth was one of our key liaisons with our American Indian students. He will be inducted into our Hall of Fame this year. We also got sad news this week that he passed away on Tuesday.
Oh.
So sadly, but he is kind of a legacy individual for our district. Yes.
Yes.
Any other comments, questions? Thank you very much for your presentation. I appreciate it. Brad, before you go.
Thank you.
I did have one question for you back to the statistics. How do you think the number of students, because the one pool is so large and the other pool is so small, a single student moving from one area to another would have a drastic impact. How do you think that impacts that back and forth shift?
That's definitely the case because we don't have 100% who take it either. And that's one of the things that Dr. Komatsu will tell us is that we have to look at the 5-year span to get an accurate depiction. You're absolutely right.
We will move on to the Scandia International Baccalaureate Coordinator, Julie Hall.
Well, good evening, everyone. I have the presentation person with me. This is AJ Hansen. He is going to be speaking to you about International Baccalaureate programs at Scandia, and specifically the primary years program. Over the past couple of years, our staff has been really excited about IB, and we're reinvigorating what was already there and trying to work really hard towards being really intentional with the standards work and true transdisciplinary approach. So we kind of are tackling a 5-year process, kind of start to finish with our kindergarten students all the way up through exhibition, which is their summative project that they do. So AJ is going to walk you through kind of that process, some projects, and the big picture view of things.
I've got an alt pump for clicker. Thank you for having me. Thank you, Julie, for introducing me. Along with being the IB coordinator at Scandia Elementary, I'm also a 6th grade teacher, so it's kind of happening at the same time. So I stay pretty busy. I really wish I would have had that afternoon coffee today. I really want to start with our IB mission. I know it's special profile to read right from the slide, but I think the mission statement really encapsulates what students and teachers are working towards at Scandia. The International Baccalaureate aims to developing inquiring, knowledgeable, and caring young people who help create a better, more peaceful world through intercultural understanding and respect. To this end, the organization works with schools, governments, and international organizations to develop challenging programs of international education and rigorous assessment. These programs encourage students across the world to become active, compassionate, lifelong learners who understand that other people with their differences can also be right. IB is a curriculum framework that we mesh with state standards and district programs to create a whole student-focused learning experience. IB has sort of like 5 pillars, and we're going to kind of address a few of them here. So international mindedness is a huge piece of IB. And IB education fosters international mindedness by helping students reflect on their own perspectives, cultures, and identities, as well as those of others. By engaging with diverse beliefs and values and experiences, and by learning to think and collaborate across cultures and disciplines, IB learners gain the understanding necessary to progress toward a more peaceful world. And IB education further enhances the development of international mindedness through multilingualism. At Scandia, we have Chinese. So Peng Sha is with our kids 2 times a week for 30 minutes in 6th grade, and at the lower levels, I think it's 15 minutes 2 times a week. All IB programs require students to study or study in more than one language. In this way, it provides excellent opportunities to develop intercultural understanding and respect. International mindedness is also encouraged through a focus of global engagement, meaningful service with the community. These elements challenge students to critically consider power and privilege and to recognize that they hold this planet and its resources in trust for future generations. They also highlight the focus on action in all IB programs, a focus on moving beyond awareness and understanding engagement, action, and bringing about meaningful change to make a more peaceful and sustainable world for everyone. Our next pillar is the IB learner profile. You walk into any classroom at Scandia, you are going to see teachers using these words. You're going to see them up on the wall. You're going to hear kids using these words. You stop a kid at Scandia and ask them what any of these words mean. They'll be able to tell you, pretty much, depending on what age, what these words mean. Our goal by the time they leave Scandia is that they really know these 10 attributes and live these 10 attributes in their daily lives. The IB Learner Profile places the student at the center of an IB education. The 10 attributes reflect the holistic nature of IB education. They highlight the importance of nurturing dispositions such as curiosity and compassion, as well as developing knowledge and skills. They also highlight that along with cognitive development, IB programs are concerned with students' social and emotional and physical well-being, so it ties really great with our Second Steps program, and ensuring that students learn to respect themselves. IB educators help students to develop these attributes over their course of their IB education and to demonstrate them in increasingly robust and sophisticated ways as they mature. Our next really big pillar here, I would say this is the middle pillar of the 5, is our curriculum framework, which is the 6 transdisciplinary themes. All grade levels K through 6 have these exact same 6 transdisciplinary themes, and teachers at Scandia work to fit all of our state standards inside these themes. They're kind of overarching themes where we're working really hard to we're baking a cake here, and the standards and the subjects are the ingredients of that cake. And when you have it, it's kind of a whole thing. You're not tasting the flour or the sugar individually, but you're tasting that whole experience, and that's what we're working towards. IB provides a detailed and developmentally appropriate curriculum that is broad, balanced, conceptual, and connected. These programs emphasize the importance of making connections, exploring relationships between academic disciplines, and learning the world in the ways that reach beyond the scope of individual subjects. So I want to talk a little bit more about that. Underneath that transdisciplinary program, we've got some important pieces. We've got knowledge, which is our state standards, concepts, tied to that as well. Action is where students are acting on the things that they're learning. They're taking it home. They're telling others about it. They're in the community talking about it. And our approaches to learning and learner profile attributes. So this is kind of how it runs down. The themes address real-world problems that help students better understand or our shared humanity without regard for subject boundaries. And underneath that, we kind of have our content, our subjects. They become one of the instruments, the tools, the resources that we explore the themes and the real-world problems and concepts in depth. And then students move away from finding just the correct answer towards making sense of a challenging world through collaboration and connection. Approaches to teaching. This is kind of where the teacher is at the forefront, and this is how we want to stand and deliver this framework. It's based on inquiry. A strong emphasis is placed on students finding their own information and constructing their own understandings. Focused on conceptual understanding. Concepts are explored in order to both deepen disciplinary understandings and to help students make connections to transfer learning to new contexts. Teaching uses real-life contexts and examples, and students are encouraged to process new information, connecting it to their own experiences and the world around them. This includes promoting teamwork and collaboration between students, but it also refers to the collaborative relationship between students and teachers. It's designed to remove the barriers for learning. Teaching is inclusive and values diversity. It affirms students' identities and aims to create learning opportunities that enable every student to develop and pursue appropriate personal goals. It's also informed by assessment. We got to have our data. We got to know if the kids are meeting their goals. It plays a crucial role in supporting as well as measuring learning. This approach also recognizes the crucial role of providing students with effective feedback. They know what they're doing and if they're doing it well. Approaches to learning is student-focused. Okay? We're thinking about critical thinking, creative thinking, comparing, contrasting, validating, and prioritizing information. It includes skills written and oral communication, effective listening, formulating arguments, social skills, maintaining positive relationships, listening skills and conflict resolution, self-management skills such as managing time and tasks, affective skills such as managing the state of mind and motivation. And this all kind of comes together into my role as the coordinator. I'm there to support teachers. I provide professional development. I implement the program of inquiry, which is called the primary years program. That's the elementary level of the IB kind of framework. It's my job to be a pedagogical leader for teachers, implement programs and standards and practices, lead our students and our teachers in developing the program. I meet quarterly with other coordinators around the state to make sure that what I'm bringing to the students and staff is relevant and current. We also go through a 5-year evaluation process in which we are asked to evaluate our language policy, our assessment policy, we're where there's standards underneath the IB framework, which we are asked to meet with staff about. They come out, they talk to teachers, they talk to students, they talk to community members, parents. They talk to school board members. Some of you might remember meeting with them a couple years ago. So it is definitely a rigorous program in which we are constantly reflecting on ourselves and making sure that we're up to date. They provide us with a comprehensive report at the end with matters to be addressed, things that we can work on, and commendments, things that we're doing really well and we should continue doing work on. I want to talk a little bit about what teachers have been doing with their staff development days this year. So Scandia teachers committed to kind of coming back to IB after pandemic, distance learning, things like that. And so we went back to square one. We took all of the standards that we have underneath our transdisciplinary themes, and I created this document so that teachers could connect to each other. Okay, these are how our enduring standards are moving through all the grade levels. So I organized it for each transdisciplinary theme. The teachers all inputted standards from social studies, science. We're working those reading standards and their math standards to really, truly become more transdisciplinary. We want that experience for students to not just be at 10 o'clock I have math, at 10:30 I have reading, things like that. My whole day is learning, and there's a real blend in between all those activities. Some subjects lend themselves better to this. Social studies and science are real easy ones. Reading really and language arts fits nicely under there. But through this document, we're working really hard to add the other things. Along with that, we added our central ideas and lines of inquiry so that we could take a look at the subjects and the topics that multiple grade levels address over the years. Those are our enduring standards, and making sure that our inquiries into those things are fresh for the kids, that we're not overlapping topics as teachers move grade levels. So this was created as well in unison with that standards document. All teachers are kind of moving towards, in the next year or so, this transdisciplinary theme planner. And it brings those subjects together with questions at the forefront as what are our standards? What is our success criteria, formative and summative? We're really kind of working in that backwards design, focusing on what do we want students to do and then building everything around that. My favorite part of this is I have PLC meetings with teachers in which I help them reflect on this process when the unit starts, throughout the unit, and when the unit ends. And the purpose of this is for teachers to be able to open this at the beginning of the year when they teach this unit and go, that worked really well last year, and we know that didn't work really well this year. We're going to move on to that. It's also meant for new teachers coming to this program. There's a lot going on, and it's built to support them as they move through these transdisciplinary themes to have success and feel confident in the IB process. I want to share a little bit about what students and teachers are doing at Scandia. So Mr. Mancini was able to write a grant for VR headsets, so our students are exploring all kinds of things. I got to join my class a few weeks ago. We were taking a look at sharks and sharks' anatomy and looking inside them. It was really cool. We have Chinese at Scandia, so we get to have that international mindedness. We celebrated Chinese New Year a little while ago. It's the year of the tiger, so each grade created a tiger to represent kind of their grade level and have that art tie there. Music is working with 4th grade students and their weather unit, and so they're making rainmakers and thunder makers, and that just goes to point out that we are working really hard to have specialists make connections to the classroom. The things that students are doing in the classroom connect to other areas of the school, and there's that blend there. We have kindergarten who's working on their seasons projects. They just finished this unit a couple weeks ago. This project took about 4 or 5 weeks, and students were taught about the details of the season and their importance. They use cotton balls to represent snow, tissue paper for blossoms, and green thumbprints for summer leaves, and brick paper for fallen trees. 2nd grade is working on that other piece of International Baccalaureate, that action piece, working on reducing, reusing, and recycling by creating upcycled art for one of their art units. 3rd grade has a couple different things going on. That they have the human anatomy project where they're looking at the body and they're looking inside the body and how it works. And they used augmented reality with iPads in that shirt so that you can see, he's wearing a shirt and then you can see inside the body. And they also are working on moon phases using Oreos. Yes, that's the one. 4th grade is working on their engineering through a bridge engineering challenge, and they were using pennies to see how many pennies the bridges could hold. And in 6th grade, we've had a couple things this year in ties to our SEL curriculum second steps. We had a managing stress escape room that we participated in earlier this year. And then one of our units where we are in time and place, students had to use a map of Minnesota. So they're using those map making skills, those total standards, where they needed to plan a 5-day trip around Minnesota to visit several historical sites, native sites, state parks. They had to keep a budget. They had to keep track of mileage. So this is an example of a project that's bringing in several different subjects as part of a learning experience for the students. This all culminates in a capstone project when students hit 6th grade. It's called the exhibition. It is not just a 6th grade project, though. The whole school is involved in this project. Students work very hard to choose their topics. I'm going to outline that in a few minutes. Mentors from teachers. It doesn't matter if you're a teacher, food service worker, bus driver, custodian. You are invited to be a mentor for these students. If you have a passion for the topic, you have time to meet with them. They are asked to have an interview with someone outside the school, a community member. It can be anybody, where they're writing questions for them and related to their topic, and mentors help them get that. It really demonstrates that students are in charge of their learning. They choose the topic. We're there to facilitate. The mentors are there to help them, but it's them getting to demonstrate, and this is exactly how I introduced it to them the other day, every skill that they've learned at Scandia Elementary in their time that's there. And it's culminating in this experience, and then they get to go share it with other classrooms in the school and a parent night, a community night, where we get to see that with them. So some of the projects from previous years: greenhouse gases, coral reefs, sports injuries, the beloved homework one always comes up, get rid of homework, and pollution. And so this is kind of how the process works, and these are some of the topics that came up this year. There's quite a diverse group of topics. There's 63 topics. And the only thing that we do is we start with 4 categories: home, school, community, and our world. And they're asked to answer 3 questions under that category: I like, I want to change, and I worry about. This is unsolicited by us. We don't really give them any other direction than that. We ask them to take it home. They do it on their own time, and then we bring all the topics together. So these are our 63 topics, and I think it really shows what kids are thinking about. It connects, some of these things connects to things that we've learned this year. Some of these things connect to things that they're probably hearing at home, talking with their families, seeing on the news. And so then they get to fill out a Google form and choose 3 topics, and we work to put them in groups. After that, they're asked to write a research paper, present their learning in any way they want, and have an action project where they need to take some type of action related to the learning that they've done over the last 5 weeks. Usually it comes in the form of public service announcements. Oftentimes it can be, we've had students raising for items in the food shelter. We really ask them that it be non-monetary, but they do need to take action on their learning. In conclusion, we're committed to moving forward with IB at Scandia. We want to implement that curriculum framework. We've been working really hard this year to go back to the standards and focus on those things and move forward from that. Next year, we're really going to be dialing in on inquiry, agency, those approaches to learning and approaches to teaching, and really kind of bringing those and sharpening those skills. We want to improve planners with intentionality and focus on the delivery of content with informed assessment. And that's what's going on with IB at Scandia.
Wow.
A lot of questions. So we'll have to talk to Member Landstrom.
Oh yes, please come to our exhibition. Our exhibition is going to be on June 8th at 3 p.m. I will send you all an invite. That's part of my role. We would love to see you there. It would really matter to the kids, just because I did tell people from the community were going to come, and I want to hold true to that. We'll have several parents there. The school students will get to see it as well. But I think it would be really impactful for you to see how this curriculum framework impacts these kids, especially the ones who have been at Scandia since kindergarten. You can see it when they're standing up there and delivering that information. You can see the passion they're committed to. Yeah, go ahead.
You can also see your passion, so fabulous. I think you're the right leader for that program. My question is, do you do any education of the parents? Because they might come in and go, I have no idea what an IB school is. I like Scandia Elementary. Let's do it.
I prized this role 3 years ago, and it's been a bumpy 3 years, as we know. So my first year, we did do a parent night. We asked teachers that every time they start a unit that they send home, it's kind of part of the checkbox that they send home what students are going to be learning about. But now that we're going to getting to invite parents back into the building, that's going to be more at the forefront. Parents were really involved with our last 5-year evaluation. We had several sign up to come in, and I just said, that was my first year in the school. I was shocked at like what they were saying in the interview, unprompted by me. I mean, they were really dialed in on what we were doing there, and I was pretty surprised. So it's really awesome to see.
Well, Jill kind of asked one of my questions, but I'm just fascinated by all the facets that go into IB and the transdisciplinary themes. What do you see as some of the challenges and the benefits of, coordinating with the teachers and informing parents?
Yes, I think the challenge is that you're right, there is a lot going on, and it is bridging. These are really best teaching practices in helping teachers, especially those that are new to our school, understand that they're already doing a lot of these things. We're just calling attention to it, we're reflecting on it, we're thinking about it even more and with more intentionality. And so once we get past that, it frees up teachers to be more comfortable in the program. IB does have a lot of requirements, though. We need to have teachers going to official trainings, providing professional development, working with other teachers, and just making sure that we're checking off those boxes. But it's all part of just being reflective, and it keeps everything circulating for us, that we're always thinking about our standards, our students, our achievement, where we that process just helps us make sure that that's always in our forefront.
And I think to remember Landstrom's question, when parents understand really well and are engaged, they're just spreading that good word to other parents and to other families and students. And
I think the ringing endorsement is when we get new families out to Scandia, especially just like in my capacity as a teacher and hearing about the experiences from other schools, and then they come to Scandia and they get that experience, and I just always get positive, comments from families that especially that come in the middle of the year to get that changed experience.
I was just going to say, you're raising global thinkers.
Yes,
and
absolutely.
that to me is amazing. And I'd be really curious to know, like, some of the past kids, what they've done, like, use that to kind of for their life and maybe a career opportunities, that maybe it's builds on those 4 years. So it would be interesting to find out.
Yeah, come in the classroom anytime. I'm happy to have anybody. You can check it out. It's really cool. It's
You're
really
inspiring speaker.
Well, I appreciate you having me tonight. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. That's great.
All right, at this time, we will introduce Teaching and Learning Director J.P. Jacobson, and we'll start with Dr. Massey.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll be extremely brief because JP's got some incredibly exciting updates for us. But I want you to benchmark this to 2018 when we successfully passed our operating referendum. You know with that we relaunched curriculum review and development, the engine that drives learning in our district. And we knew when doing that we would begin the process of evaluating standards, best practice, evidence-based practice, moving that toward ultimately what we need on hand to teach to the standards and to give our staff tools they need to be effective teachers. So tonight we are here to share the culmination of that work with English language arts, with an extremely exciting curriculum adoption, and then an update on the work with science as well. So Director J.P. Jacobson and his team have done amazing work.
Yeah, thank you for that, Dr. Massey. Chair Peterson, members of the board, thanks for once again having me to talk about some of the things that we've been focusing on, as Dr. Massey just shared, around bringing new resources, fun stuff to kids. Right? We just heard a great presentation. I'm not going to try to rival that. But I do have some exciting, really exciting news to share in two fronts. One, we talked about K-6 ELA. The resources, the gift that our community provided to us a few years ago. We put an instructional review system in place. We supported teachers with high-quality staff development. We've hired coaches. Now we get to open up a new chapter, so to speak, around resources and books and materials for kids. I'm also going to bore you for a little bit to talk about science and some really exciting trends that are happening around science instruction in Minnesota here in Forest Lake too. But I'll get to the elementary ELA part first. Okay, I think I just clicked out. I did. Oh, there we go. Yep, I fixed it myself. Okay. So before we get to that part, I think it's important to take a look in the review mirror a few years back. And around that same time, as we developed this elementary literacy framework, something that we keep putting out in front of us because it's critically important. In 2018, the same year that we passed our operating referendum, our literacy experts at the time took a look at our existing literacy framework and a lot of emerging science around the mechanics to how kids read. Now, some people learn to read pretty naturally. It comes to them. Others, it is incredibly difficult because you think of the notion of looking at characters and shapes, attaching sounds and sound patterns to those, phonemes and phonemic awareness, and building words and sentences. That can be really unnatural to some. And so we pulled in a number of new strategies and some resources and how we went about doing that. A year later, we started to really focus on small group instruction. Our ability to provide grade level standards and conversation around key concepts, but using materials that are at various levels of reading ability. That way we can support kids that might be slightly below grade level, those at grade level, and those are flying when it comes to reading. And we purchased some materials around small group instruction, and then we supported teachers with some training on what we call Jan Richardson. We also became aware of this new emerging strategies around letters. LETTER stands for Language Essentials for Teachers of Reading and Spelling. And that's a very comprehensive set of strategies to train a person in one volume alone. It takes about 48 hours of time, all time outside of the workday. And we trained about 4 teachers in our district at the time to get a sense of what this was, and became so interested in it so quickly, we started to train our own people to be trainers. The next year, in 2020, a year that some people have said that it's a loss, we did not. We trained 26 more teachers on letters while MDE was announcing new standards. Now, MDE, if you pay attention, will release new standards about once every 10 years. And they release new standards for us to adopt here in a few years. They give us a couple of years to spend time unpacking and understanding those standards, looking at our current practices and resources, identifying where we might have gaps and needs, and then putting together a new program to meet the new standards. This year, the year that we are currently in, we're finishing up the training of 45 more elementary educators in letters. And again, 48 hours of training and meeting outside of the workday to accomplish this. We've made continued modifications for improvement to our literacy framework. This isn't a document that's going to continue to radically change from one year to the next. But we're not etching it in any stone. We want it to continue to improve and evolve as our teachers give us feedback, as we learn more, and as we continue to read more. At the same time, we took a look at our focus on materials. Now, a little history lesson. The last time Forest Lake was able to purchase new materials, the books, the resources for teachers, what we read to kids in the classroom was about 2007. It's been a few years. They have served us well, but it's a new time. Because what we know is we've got great teachers. We all agree, we've got great teachers. And we are in a new time where we're supporting them with high quality, high leverage strategies. What we're going to talk about here in the next few slides are the resources and tools that we push into the classroom and we send home with kids around high quality, rich materials. When we began to look at, okay, what are we going to bring into our district that might be new? Let me share with you the lens by which we were looking at this. We wanted materials that needed to align with our literacy framework, the document that I just shared, and the science of reading. We needed materials that aligned with and supported Minnesota ELA standards that we're going to be stepping into in a couple of years. We needed books that kids love to read and that they're engaging, that reflect that we've been listening to our community around local values. There's a balance of fiction and nonfiction text. And there's opportunities, just as you heard our gifted teachers from Scandia talk about, the ability for kids to not only see themselves, all kids, see themselves reflected back in the text, but we can see others as well and learn about other histories. And we wanted books that were content rich, meaning that as I'm learning to read, I'm learning really important stuff along the way. Embeds writing into the reading process so that we are not only developing really good readers, but kids who can write about what they read or create their own writing from scratch. That we wanted a program that was proven to be effective, that other teachers and other districts have used over time with good results. We wanted to support our teachers as they support their learners. So as I'm thinking through lesson activities or a unit plan, I've got materials that offer really sound ideas on what that might look like. Or as I'm providing interventions for kids that need it taught a different way or with more time or more support, or when we bring our academic support specialists into the classroom, we've got ideas on how to do that. While at the same time, for our kids who are soaring, we've got ideas on how we can allow them to be enriched within the program. And also we wanted the program that we knew came with and we could provide additional really good professional development around. We spent within our literacy team a lot of time understanding, again, the science of reading. What goes into helping kids read and learn to read? And it's not just doing it more and more. There's certain steps. There's certain parts that you need to do, right? Around language comprehension, and around word recognition. And in both of these areas, the program that we ultimately are selecting as a teaching and learning team and as a district really supports the science of reading. This is a framework that our literacy team and our teaching and learning coordinator over curriculum and instruction really are familiar with. So what did we do? How did we go about doing this? Because there are a number of programs out there that want to sell their program to schools, right? So we started by looking at outside clearinghouses that rate literacy programs. And we looked at programs that were at the top of all the lists that were important to us. From there, we started making contact with them and trying to select programs for which we were being judicious, careful stewards of our district resources, not purchasing a program that in a few years we no longer could support financially. And then with that, we set up vendor meetings with a whole host of different companies. Using a pretty comprehensive rubric around certain key areas that we have up there, we began to rate each of these programs by listening to vendors present, paging through materials, asking questions. We also at the time surveyed we had a survey that all elementary classroom teachers could respond to, giving us, here are the things that I think are most critically important as this small team is doing these hours of work around a literacy program for me and my kids. We use our literacy team, our lit coaches, and a few others to do these painstaking hours of work. Again, a gift to us from our community that most districts don't have the benefit from. From there, as this team is doing this work, alongside at the same time in separate meetings, or maybe not at the same time, but over the course of the year, we had a K-6 ELA team that all of these literacy experts are part of, but also we had multiple reps from every grade level, reps from across the district in every building. We had reps from EL education, from special education, our academic support specialists. We had principals on this group. Going through the process of now, first of all, if we're going to align our new program with the new standards, we better know what those new standards are asking of us. So digging deeply through those new standards, identifying gaps and needs and what our current programs and our literacy framework ask of us. We looked at data, and then we created a rubric. We had a rubric that we trained all of those educators on, so that as we got to the next step, when they were looking, we brought them into the conversation around looking at programs. They had a pretty refined lens on what they were looking at this through. At this point, our vetting team had narrowed it down to 2 programs, either one of which we felt really great about. And this ELA team, with all the members I just described, spent several hours listening to each vendor, asking questions. During the time, they all had the materials in their hands. And then they had about a month to look through the materials and generate opinions and questions. And they had an opportunity to share those questions with us. And if we hadn't already answered the question, we chased down the answer. Again, when I say we, I mean our literacy coaches and Katie Lawrence. And then about a month later, we followed up and we said, what do you think? And one key thing was consistent. Let me back up. We had people that liked different parts of each program. I think our previous team had done a nice job of bringing good programs to them. But there was a clear leaning to one particular program. What was consistent throughout the group was excitement about finally they have new books and resources that create a new level of consistency for all kids, regardless of where their parents have bought a house across our district. Right?
Maybe I'm getting ahead of you, but can you talk about the role that Curriculum Instruction Equity Community Committee also played in this process?
No, thank you. No, you're not getting ahead of me. Throughout this process, at different checkpoints, we have a Curriculum Instruction Equity Committee meeting. This is a committee that has community members as part of it, educators from across the district. Some of our community members have kids in the school. Some are just interested in what's happening in our schools. And we did check-ins with them along the way. Here's the work that we're doing. Here's the things that we're thinking about. Here are the questions that we're asking each other as we're looking at these programs, and getting some feedback from them as to, well, first of all, making people aware that we're doing it, and then are there any feedback that we would pass along to the experts that are doing this work. We met twice over the course of this last part when we were looking at programs. Thank you for not letting me forget that, absolutely. We settled on a program called Benchmark Advance, okay? This is a program that uniquely is a K-6 program. So unlike many other districts that have their K-5 elementaries, we're a K-6 elementary system. And their program provides for a 90-minute literacy block, grades K through 6. The books, the texts, I wish I remembered to bring some with me, are very engaging. A lot of good things, rich things for kids to read. It really, this part stood out amongst all the programs around the way that it taught early readers how to read, around phonics, phonemic awareness. It had a robust writing component. So as we've all been in that stage where we've read something and we don't have a clue what we just read. And one of the things that we get, the way we teach kids to not find themselves in that position is to write about what they're reading as they're reading it. And that has a robust reading component built right into the program. This particular program also stood out in terms of the reader's theater resources that it provides, so that kids get to be the characters that they're reading when they're in the classroom. By the way, it also helps us meet some of the new art standards around theater early in the elementary level. It's got intervention and extension supports built into the program, as I talked about earlier. It's got rich materials for small group instruction. And both programs, this one included, have a full assessment suite, meaning that if teachers, as teachers are building common assessment, there are templates set, already developed, related to the materials that they just read and the unit that they just went to, all directly aligned to standards that they can just download and print. Or even better yet, if they would like to give the assessment in the classroom using a device, they have the assessment scored and analytics and data that they can see that same afternoon when they're walking into a team meeting with their grade level peers. To say, oh, how did you get the results on that? What did you say? How did you do it? You know, and then to even say, okay, going in tomorrow, let's flexibly group our kids based on those that are really flying and can go further. I'll take those. Maybe you can take the kids that just need a little bit more time or need a little extra support. It would give them real-time data. The other thing that we're really excited about is the parent partnership that this new program allows for us. Because over the course of however long we have this program, they are going to send us student readers that go home with kids in their backpack each day, 10 readers over the course of the year. And in these readers, it has all the reading that kids are going to do independently. Now parents can look over their shoulders and see what it is that they're reading. Right? It also allows kids, because they're consumables, to learn how to do a strategy called close reading or marking the text. Again, as I'm reading, I'm thinking about what I'm reading. I'm circling key vocabulary. I'm underlining things that are important. I'm responding to prompts in the margin about what I've just read. I can write about what's interesting or summarize. All that can be done right there on the pages. Librarians typically discourage you from doing that. And it's really not only valuable for parents to see what our kids are reading, but what are you doing? How are you teaching our kids to read? That becomes super transparent overnight. So we, now having made the decision, we've got to get ready for a successful rollout. You know, I've long thought getting the decision on what program we select is really right? And I think that our people have run a process that has gotten us there. Also making sure that we've got the rollout plan, getting the materials into teachers' hands, possibly early, even before we start training, so they can look through them. PD, not just at the front end, but over the course of the year, using our literacy coaches to get into classrooms and give feedback and support to teachers will all go into what will make the rollout of something this significant go as well as it possibly can. So that, you know, we have one more meeting with that team this year, and that will be the focus of this meeting. Beyond the obvious, what do you need for us to support you as we move into this? So my plan was to move into science here, but I'm going to pause. I can answer questions on this, or we can go through some comments on this right now, or we can wait to the end.
Comments, questions?
I just have one on both, but how many hours do you think your team put into this big lift of, I mean, I was in some of those meetings and there was just a lot of time and due diligence and poring over meetings from vendors. Do you think, how many hours do you think it was?
I would say, you know, with our lit coaches and our teaching and learning coordinator, I would even, too many to count. Too many. Yeah, it has been a lot of late afternoons, looking at things over the weekend, taking things home, during the day meetings. They have put a lot of time into it. I really get the sense that all of them also knew when we got to the point of we've got two to push forward, they felt good about either one.
And I remember them talking about the real-time data and then the incorporation of the writing, the robust writing with the reading. That was just such a critical thing to have. And I just want to say that, I'm so glad we're really investing in our students. Before 2018 and the passing of our operational levy, we had some really dark days as curriculum and curriculum coordinators, and everything was just cut to the bare bones. So it's really exciting that we're to this point and all this hard work has been done.
Yeah, when we talk about the money making its way into the hands of kids through resources, yeah, that's what's happening here. Sure.
So I just have a question about how, have you taken a look at how well this will integrate with, it seems more and more, the teachers are appropriately putting their lessons plans up. How able is this system able to be referenced, linked into, and set into the different online ways that teachers communicate to their students how things need to be done and what needs to be done? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
How well does it mix into school view?
Well, it would link into what places that we put our elementary course materials, things that we want kids to do when they're at home, whether that be Seesaw or whether that be Google Classroom. And so teachers will still need to put, here are the things that we're doing and here are the activities. That probably won't change a great deal. What might change, or will change, is this program comes with it, in addition to the booklets that go home, a whole host of different books and articles that they publish and they place online. Right. So instead of teachers going and finding those things, they still might, right, but they're going to also have a greater library of online resources for kids to read that they would just link right within Google Classroom, so that if a kid's home or sick, they can assign something right from those online resources.
Perfect. Thank you.
My question is in light of Scandia and all the other schools that we've heard about kind of their unique way of integrating curriculum and materials and then the flavor of their school. Does this offer enough flexibility to still work within those more unique frameworks?
Yeah, so it does. First of all, a lot of the readers are transdisciplinary. In reading, you're reading about science and social studies, and you're talking about different connections to each. This is actually, I think, a 6th grade reader. You heard from a 6th grade teacher a moment ago. This is something that they read in reading, and you can see that's all about science, right? And actually, to give him credit, you think, how can he accomplish everything that he does, right? He was also on the team, the instructional review team, right? So I think that all of our buildings, they still have some uniqueness to them, that part of it will be sitting down and saying, okay, how do I make this personal for me? And how do I make this personal for my building?
And the teachers, because there's some really fantastic teachers. We have K6 in each building, and they can still do their own flair of, I love to teach about the explorers, and they can bring in a favorite book of theirs still, there's still room for.
Yes. I think we're going to still see some of that for sure. Yeah, absolutely.
I just had a question. I know you maybe already said it about start to finish. Like, when did the process start? You might have already played upon that, but I want to know that this was a very lengthy process.
Oh, yeah.
That's what I meant to say.
Let me jump in. I would say, technically, the day we passed our referendum.
So 2008.
We started truly building out the referendum program budget, you'll recall. That called for coordinators and lit coaches and academic support in the curriculum review process. We built the framework and the infrastructure. Then the very next year, we had people hired and beginning this work.
Too many hours to count.
Too many days and hours.
Yeah.
So on that note, are we looking at starting at fall 22?
We're looking at starting to set up training dates. I've already had conversations with the company for the summer. And we're planning on, why wait? Let's go.
My point is that that's got to be across the board, all elementaries. What I think is a very good thing, like you say, just because you live in Columbus, you learning something different from Forest Lake. It's gonna be the same. And also, nothing like having a book in your hand that's brand new. That's a pretty good feeling too.
Yeah.
So,
And kids going home will get brand new books every year.
right.
And they get to keep them.
Wonderful.
It's important to note that there's not a school district serious about this work that doesn't have a curriculum of this magnitude and scale. There are many districts on this curriculum, JP could rattle off the list. So we aren't alone on this. This is tried and true and proven across the country, but more importantly, more local.
Yeah, one of the steps that we did that I didn't mention is we found out who else is using these curriculums and we called them. And we said, tell us about it. What are your experiences been? And again, one of the things that we heard throughout is support and PD is a big part of how it goes. And we've got to support our educators.
All right, let's move on to
Let's move on to science. All right. So there's some science updates that I want to share with you here too as well. So again, science is like on a 10-year cycle. Our last science adoption, the standards that we're operating under currently, was made in 2010. The process to renew our standards started a few years ago. And now we have in our hand our new science standards, and they're called the next generation science standards. And they're going to ask a couple of different things from us that I'll get to us in a moment. But we're beginning this planning for a 24-25 rollout or implementation of these standards because we know that we want to do it right, just like what we talked about with the ELA, and that takes process, it takes people, and it takes time. Just as a quick review, we test essentially every year beginning of third grade in reading and math. But in science it's a bit different. I think we might be all familiar with that. We test in grade 5 for MCA science, but we test for 3 years. That test isn't just the standards at grade 5, that's 3, 4, and 5. We test at grade 8, and we test 3 years worth of content at grade 8. And then we typically test at the end of whenever kids finish 5. Okay. The new standard, so having done that little bit of review, there's 2 primary shifts that these new next generation science standards are going to ask of us. Probably most notably in a registration guide is that it's going to change the grade levels at which certain focus areas are covered in science. All right. The second is it's going to change how we experience science. Now, how we experience science, how we're going to experience science going forward is happening in a lot of our classrooms already, but it's just clarifying with the standards how kids will learn about science and be introduced to science going forward. So for example, and these are some questions, well the first one is some questions that our teachers wrestled with during PD. Have you ever wondered why when you pop popcorn, all the kernels don't pop? Well, why is that? Well, asking that question, starting a unit from there, is kind of interesting. Gets you thinking, right? More recently, when you're walking down the street, right, after it's rained, we had a little bit of that, there's all these worms on the ground. Why are they out before? And it's starting the point of talking about science from what we call a phenomena base. And these standards are written from what we call a phenomena-based approach. It's starting with a question, an observation, an event, or a fact, and saying, why is this? And having kids enter into an authentic lesson around instruction and science so that it breeds curiosity. So as kids are walking through their world, they're beginning to wonder why it is our leaves are green, rather than opening a chapter and it says, Unit 4, Photosynthesis. First vocabulary word is chlorophyll. It's talking about that from a phenomenon-based approach. We have already, even though we're talking about 24, 25, we've already started training with our elementary teachers on this approach. And we've got opportunities over the summer with an expert from Utah actually coming in to work with educators in August on this. The other thing that it's doing for us is it's shifting, like I mentioned, the sequence in which kids will take certain science courses. So currently, if you had our current registration guide in front of you, you would see that in grade 6, that's a physical science experience in grade 6. That is shifting to earth science. Life science is staying the same. Well, the standards are adjusting somewhat, but life science will remain at 7th grade. 8th grade is currently an earth science experience. That is changing to physical science. Physical science is a kind of a combination of physics and chemistry. 9th grade, which is currently physics, will become a full year course around Earth and space. Our recommendation is for physics or chemistry to be options at grade 10, with biology staying at grade 11. The one thing that we would be recommending to the board at one point, this is kind of just an update, is that this would be our science sequence, and that we would be shifting our graduation standard requirement to 3 credits. That is what the state requirement currently is. We have had a half credit of an elective requirement in the past, but if I put up there our career pathway wheel and all the exciting opportunities around career pathways, we're asking ourselves, do we need to require all kids to take another half elective in science, or could we open up an opportunity for them to take a course around passion in engineering or in health sciences or whatever it might be, right? However, we're going to continue to offer, and we would like to continue to offer a number of electives. And again, if you had our registration guide for the high school in front of you, you would see that those are the electives that we currently offer for the fall in science. So it's really actually kind of exciting that a district our size can provide this many different opportunities for kids. So no action is requested tonight, but as we bring future registration guides to you, we'll be making some recommendations for the board to consider. Questions or comments about this?
Good luck.
I think it looks like a great program, and I'm excited to see it implemented. I think the phenomenon base, like I actually have wondered why all the popcorn kernels don't pop myself, right? So coming from that, it's going to engage interest, I think, in a way that generally you don't. So I think that's going to be a great change, especially in the younger age. To get them interested in science will be awesome.
Yeah, great work.
Excellent.
Do you think you'll have a problem finding a program that starts at grade 6, like 6 through 12?
No, I don't think so. I think that...
Well, because 6 is standard, usually middle school. We're just putting it into the elementary.
Correct. And when we looked at the previous discussion around an ELA program, that's a pretty comprehensive program that we're going to get physical materials into the kids' hands. One of the things that we will always do as a teaching and learning department is to say, what is the best way to do this with the assets and the resources that we have? And it might not be always buying something. It could be using our teachers to do some writing and curating resources around a particular program.
Mm-hmm.
So that question has yet to be answered.
Just one quick question. For grade 10, is that a change, physics or chemistry? That's 1 credit, is that a change?
It currently is a change.
Okay.
Right now, in grade 9, it's a physics requirement.
Okay.
In grade 10, it's a chemistry requirement. And then at grade 11, it's a bio requirement.
Gotcha. And then they'd like this 12 is elective option. Because look at what we have. That's just incredible.
Yep.
Wow. Great report. Thank you. Very excited.
When does the sequence change? Is it effective immediately or 2025?
We're actually, because we can't do the entire change all at the same time, because we need to make sure that as kids move from one grade level to the next, that they get all the sciences. So it's actually a 4-year process of moving into this. So we will start in 2023 with grade 6 and grade 8. And then each year, we're going to add another grade level until by the time that our graduating class, those kids entering ninth grade in 2027, they will be in this new model.
Any other questions, comments? Thank you very much. Yeah, at this time, I'd entertain a motion to recess for 10 minutes.
So moved.
Second.
Second, all those in favor, signify by aye.
Aye.
We'll recess.
Okay.
At this time, I'd entertain a motion to return to business.
So moved.
Second?
And all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Member Clerk, would you please take a roll call?
Member Tyson's here, Member Corcoran? Here. Member Kettle?
Here.
Member Landstrom? Here. Member Luther? Here. Member Peterson?
Here.
And Member Rayfield? All here.
Member Rachel?
Yeah, Member Chair, I'd like to just move that, given that it's getting kind of late, I'd like to move that we suspend positive happenings through the reports, except the superintendent's report, and just do them through email entered into the record, just because it's so late.
So moved.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion?
I think that's excellent, given the time.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by aye.
Actually, one last discussion.
Oh, go ahead.
Can we ever was very against this being a standard procedure, make sure they get these emails so they know what we're talking about?
Yeah.
Okay.
I didn't hear what you said, what was that?
There was, because this is how we were going to do it, like more
That was an
streamlined.
internal.
Yeah, it was,
discussion.
it was internal.
No, it's
So, okay.
Yeah, so we're good.
All right, all those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. We will move on to the consent agenda. This time-
Oh, wait. I
Oh,
think the
superintendent's report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Well, that's not a tee up for, be quick. So I got the message. First, we just spent 2 hours on non-business items, but quite honestly, I think the board should be applauded for taking the time to study, learn, elevate all that is amazing going on in the district, from our reports of elementary schools that we get every month and other reports and bringing students in. It is time well spent. I know it's long, but it's time well spent, and I applaud you for that. I'm going to take just a quick moment and again thank JP Jacobson, Director Jacobson, and his team for the curricular work. It's incredible work that is going on by a number of people throughout the district. Give recognition to Principal Julie Hull and sixth grade teacher A.J. Hansen. You saw an amazing program at Scandia and the IB program in integrated learning that will certainly be supported by the ELA curriculum adoption. It was said a number of times, Activities Director Mike Henning is truly everywhere. He is a gift for us in this district. He resonates with kids and families, and all of the coaches and advisors that work with him do an amazing job on behalf of our kids. Brad Ward and our American Indian Chris and Rebecca liaisons provide invaluable support for American Indian students, so applaud all their great work. Just a few quick highlights on upcoming dates as we enter an extremely busy time in the school district. I'll put these in my weekend update, but I'll just state these for you to hear, and then you'll see them in my weekly update. The retirement recognition, Wednesday, May 25th, 4 p.m., recognizing retirees throughout the district in the high school media center. Academic awards and Hall of Fame induction, Monday, June 6th at 7 p.m. in the high school auditorium. Hall of Fame reception the following night, June 7th, 7 p.m. at Forest Hills Golf Club. And then, of course, graduation June 9th, Thursday at 7 p.m. in the high school athletic stadium, weather permitting. Otherwise, we're traveling a few miles down the road to Aldrich Arena and White Bear Lake.
Can I ask a question on that?
Yes.
When do you make a decision so parents know?
As soon as possible.
That day though?
The day of, and usually by noon, 1 o'clock at the absolute latest. So that, we're not gonna wait till 4 or 5, so it's by midday.
Perfect.
Yes,
Perfect. I didn't know all this, because I must have missed the meeting where this was discussed, but, so if, Wendy, I'm sorry, I missed, I was like, kind of want to.
Noon, 1 o'clock.
I'm very excited about it though. Thank you.
well, last year, you'll recall the heat in the
It
gym
was
was
terrible,
almost
yes.
dangerous.
Yes.
This has been in my weekend update probably 3 times, not to,
I have been reading your updates.
yeah, so it's,
There'll be a quiz.
so essentially, what we're doing is providing an alternate location until through, and you'll see, not specifically, but you'll see in the long-term facility maintenance budget, we're earmarking 3 summers out to have our indoor facilities air conditioned. For the following summer, we'll be back on campus. So a temporary move to Aldridge, if need be. Other events of note, tomorrow, the Ag Open House, all day long. If you haven't gotten the flowers for your gardens, it's a great place to get them. We've heard tonight again a reminder of the first home track meet over 25 years, May 10th. The one in April got, I don't know, cold out, snowed out, whatever the heck was going on, not conducive for a track meet. And that's 4 p.m. on Tuesday, May 10th. Native American honoring ceremony again on May 10th. 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. in the high school auditorium and media center area. Hmong Asian Culture Club traditional celebration night on the 12th at 5 p.m. high school auditorium. And the Pops concert Friday, June 3rd, 7 p.m. high school gym.
Friday, June 3rd?
June 3rd, Friday. And with that, that concludes my update on the news.
Questions for the superintendent? Hearing none, move on to the consent agenda. All those in, this time I'd entertain a motion to pass the consent agenda.
Second.
A motion and a second. All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. We will move on to action items. 8.1, Forest Lake Area School staff retirement notices. This time I'd entertain a motion to pass 8.1.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Discussion?
Yes, I just want to recognize Kathy Wolfbauer from Scandia, elementary assistant, and Kathy was always just the quintessential face and smile of the building and such good interactions with parents. She's just a warm, wonderful person, and I wish her the best in her retirement. And then as well, Candace Tilton, special ed, and Allison Grieger, Title I, and Richard Forster. Maybe I'll have a wonderful retirement.
Any other discussion? Member Lance?
Just pointing out the number of years that they've been there in service,
Yes.
21, 32, 29, and 32. That is amazing. I'm surprised there's only 4 listed though. Is that?
This time of year, that's fairly typical.
Oh, okay.
Most of the retirements have already been posted and accepted.
Any further discussion? Well, I would just like to thank them for their service to our district, and I guarantee you we will miss all of that experience in the future. Hearing more discussion, all those in favor of passing 8.1 signify by aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. We'll move to 8.2, donations. Kevin?
We had a total of $2,050.88 in total donations. We had 560 from the Grolson family, 515.88 from the Forest Lake Elementary PTA, $395 from the Blue Line Club, $200 from Claire Luger, $200 from John Darling, $150 from the Cedar East Bethel Lions Club, $30 from the Target Corporation, and we had a donation of a tricycle and a stroller from George and Janelle Slater. And we had some miscellaneous goods provided by Bob Gore. Again, for a total of $2,050.88. And with that, I would like to make a motion that we accept the donations with appreciation for those donations and permit the use by as specified by the donors.
So,
We have a second? Second. A motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. We will move on to 8.3, Title IX Sex non-discrimination policy, grievance procedure, and process policy 510.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The school district does not discriminate on the basis of sex in its education programs or activities, and it is required by Title IX of the Education Amendments Act of 1972 and its implementing regulations not to discriminate in such a manner. The requirement not to discriminate in its education programs or activities extends to admission and employment. The school district is committed to maintaining an education and work environment that is free from discrimination based on sex, including sexual harassment. The change noted in this policy, you'll see on page 13, where we are crossing out the reference on the standard of proof on discrimination, referencing the preponderance of evidence. It's being scratched because earlier in the policy, we accurately indicate that the standard used is clear and convincing evidence. That is the standard required in law, and you'll see that on page 7. And with that, administration recommends approval.
What is your pleasure with 8.3?
So moved.
Second?
Motion and a second. Any discussion?
Just have one question. Is this an MSBA model policy?
Yes, MSBA provides guidance on this as to the various legal references you'll see on that page.
Okay. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, Member Clerk, would you please take a roll call?
Member Rayfield?
Aye.
Member Tyson votes aye. Member Corcoran?
Aye.
Member Kettle?
Aye.
Member Landstrom?
Aye.
Member Luzner?
Aye.
Member Peterson?
Aye.
All ayes.
All right, we'll move on to 8.4, discipline policy 515, Dr. Johnson.
This policy, as are all the policies that come to the board, are reviewed by the policy committee, including this policy. This is also a policy that our school administrators spend time reviewing each year and making different recommendations to the policy committee. And the noteworthy change is on page 7 in reference to student attire, providing clarification around school dress code requirements and expectations. With that, the administration recommends approval.
What's your pleasure with 8.4?
Move to approve?
Second.
A motion and a second. Discussion? Member Luzner?
Question, discussion. So we've gone through this every year, and it doesn't seem to always be the same in each building. So some buildings and some teachers kind of make their own dress code policy. How is that covered? Is this like the policy, or this is the minimum and you can do more if you want?
No, this is the policy, and like anything in a big system, consistency is always the goal, and at times always the challenge. So where we are discrepant in implementation of the policy, we address that as we become aware of that. And although the temptation might be to be even more strict, we have to be careful there because the policy drives the expectation.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, Member Clerk, would you please take a roll call?
Member Peterson?
Aye.
Member Rayfield?
Aye.
Member Tyson votes aye. Member Corcoran?
Aye.
Member Kettle?
Aye.
Member Landstrom?
Aye.
And Member Luzner?
Aye.
All ayes.
Motion passes. We'll move to 8.5, student attendance policy 519.
The purpose of this policy is to encourage regular school attendance of all school-age children in the school district. The changes recommended in seeking your approval tonight, you'll find on page 3. And essentially, we're adding language here that gives latitude to school administrators to address excessive absences. You might get a situation where a parent may call a student in 20, 30, 40 times for illness or just for some reason identified by the parent. And if the administration believes or concludes in working with the student and the parent that the absences are really not wanted and certainly disruptive to learning, giving the administrator some leverage to not excuse those absences and thereby engaging the county in truancy with those situations to assist in helping that student get to school. And with that, administration recommends approval.
What is your pleasure with A5?
So moved.
Second.
A motion and a second, discussion. Member Loser?
And this is making sure I read it right. So in one of the remediations, it does say that a principal or administrator would call in like Lakes area assistance. And I appreciate that because a lot of the non-excused reasons were like watching a sibling or other things that are really, the family needs help. And so I appreciate that the school district is trying to help, not be punitive.
That's right. And engaging social services
Okay, so
and support agencies where we can help and assist families.
I'm glad I read that correctly.
Yes.
Member Tyson?
I'd just like to add that the addition of that just lends some clarity for what the absences are. And I think when they go down that path of having so many, it's just gets them in that deeper hole of trying to get that education brought back up. So I think that's just a great position for the principals to step in and lend help to the family and make known the resources we have available.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, Member Clerk, would you please take a roll call?
Sure. Member Luther?
Aye.
Member Peterson?
Aye.
Member Rayfield?
Aye.
Member Tyson votes aye. Member Corcoran?
Aye.
Member Ketto?
Aye.
And Member Landstrom?
Aye.
All ayes.
All right, we'll move on to 8.6, medical insurance premium change. Director Martine.
Good evening, everyone. I'm pleased to report to you that the premiums for our self-insured medical program have only changed 2 times since 2013. Unfortunately, we are seeing a big dramatic rise in claims, and the Employee Benefits Committee, along with the Finance Committee, along with you folks, have seen these program suggestions and modifications once, in your case, a couple times at the Finance Committee, but 3 times at the Employee Benefits Committee. And earlier in this year, since that committee meets 9 times a year, we shared with them that we were expecting a 22% increase. We're able to knock that down further. With increased employee education on all of our incentive programs, we can expect to reduce that to only 19%. But we have some additional strategies as well. Adding a $500 copay for specialty medications would further reduce the increase by another 2%. And increasing the deductibles by $1,000 for single, $2,000 for family would reduce that another 2% as well. Adding a family spousal advantage surcharge of $200 per month, 6 months into the plan year, so not effective right away, but effective January 1st of 2023, would reduce that by another 3%. So underwriters at Preferred One have analyzed all of these plan design changes, and by implementing this, we can effectively have our premiums reduced from 22% to approximately 12%. Adopting all of these changes, we are recommending increasing the medical insurance premiums effective July 1. Single goes from $770 a month to $860 a month. Family would go from $2,050 a month to $2,325 a month. That's the total premium. The district contributes quite a bit towards the employees, depending on the contract. This is also coupled with that increase in the monthly surcharge for family participants who have access to alternate care, an additional $200 per month effective January 1 of 2023. We'd ask for a roll call on that recommendation.
All right, do we have a motion on 8.6?
So moved.
Second.
A motion and a second, discussion.
That's good news. Thank you for the hard work and of everybody. And I know it's a lot of outreach and planning and then buy-in. So everybody really eventually came together. 12% is not great, but it's not 22%. So
Right. Well said.
I just know that you guys were really looking at a lot of options and just trying to reduce that for families and for, I mean, medical care is really increasing and it could have been a lot worse. So I'm thankful that there's other avenues to try to recoup some of that. Thank you for all the hard work and your team too.
I'd just like to say that I also appreciate the hard work and making sure we're not at 22%, but I would also like to say that it does represent a significant increase for our employees, and that shouldn't be lost on any of us. Obviously, healthcare has been rather expensive since COVID, and I understand trying to mitigate some of that increase in use of the plan, but keep in mind that real dollars that impact real people every week, so.
Yeah.
Good point.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, Member Clerk, would you please take a roll call?
Member Landstrom? Aye. Member Lisner? Aye. Member Peterson?
Aye.
Member Rayfield?
Aye.
Member Tyson votes aye. Member Corcoran?
Aye.
And Member Kettle?
Aye.
All ayes.
Motion passes. We will move on to 8.7. Director Martini.
So Apex Arena Solutions has led the design team consisting of 292 Design and ISG Mechanical, along with Laux Site Services. The Building and Grounds Committee has been appraised of this design team's progress, and Apex Arena Solutions is ready now to put together the bid specifications. We've got a timeline attached to this item. The bid tabulation and a recommendation will be processed after the bid opening on May 26th. So we ask for your approval to go out for bid for the ice arena project.
What's your pleasure with?
Move to approve 8.8.
Sorry, 8.7.
8.7. I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion?
Whatever we get, so when do we see the further detail, or could you just forward me the further details of the project itself?
Absolutely.
Yeah, thank you.
I just want to add, this has been a big lift for your group too, Larry. There's been a lot of work and a lot of discussion. I know there's parents in my neighborhood that are waiting for this. When will this project come to fruition then?
So it will begin next spring. It'll take place not this summer, but the following summer.
Okay.
And you're right. We've been anticipating this and working on this for more than 18 months.
Excellent. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Member Clerk, would you please say roll call?
Member Kettle?
Aye.
Member Landstrom?
Aye.
Member Lisner?
Aye.
Member Peterson?
Aye.
Member Rayfield?
Aye.
Member Tyson votes aye, and Member Corcoran?
Aye.
All ayes.
Motion passes. We'll move to 8.8, permission to bid asphalt projects. Director Martini.
Very similar, however, these asphalt projects would be small projects at the middle school, high school, CLC, and Forest Lake Elementary. Larger projects would be at Linwood, Columbus, and Lino Lakes Elementary. Roughly a total package over $900,000. And Greg Bukal from Larson Engineering would develop the bid specifications. We're asking your approval to go out for bid.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second on 8.8. Any discussion?
I just have a quick, is this parking lots, sidewalks?
Parking lots and sidewalks.
Oh, okay.
So every once in a while, you'll see crumbling concrete, and not all of it will be addressed, but much of it at those sites.
And you probably put this in finance, but where is this coming from exactly in the budget land?
So the long-term facility maintenance revenue budget that Dr. Massey previously discussed will fund not only these projects, roofing, also the ice arena project, and the plan you'll see a little bit later this evening is a 10-year plan that includes the HVAC at the high school. That was actually a multi-year, addressing the gymnasiums and athletic spaces first, but other aspects of the building for a number of years behind.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, Member Clerk, please take a roll call.
Member Corcoran? Aye. Member Kettle?
Aye.
Member Landstrom?
Aye.
Member Lisner?
Aye.
Member Peterson?
Aye.
Member Rayfield?
Aye.
And Member Tyson votes aye. All ayes.
Motion passes. We'll move to 8.9, resolution approving long-term facilities maintenance revenue for intermediate District 916.
While our long-term facility maintenance revenue budget is $5 to $7 million a year in that 10-year plan you'll see on the next agenda item, this is 916's portion for Forest Lake area schools, and it represents $17,709 for next year. They have a 10-year plan, but the impact of Forest Lake is in that magnitude of $15,000 to $20,000 per year. We ask that you approve this resolution so that we can forward it to 916.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion?
I just have one quick question, Larry. So LTFM for the intermediates, does that fluctuate when members leave?
It certainly can.
Okay, but somebody, a school did leave, but there wasn't much.
The magnitude here, though, as you see, is thousands of dollars.
Right.
Not
I was just-
even hundreds of thousands.
Right, so I was just curious, but thank you.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, Member Clerk, would you please take a roll call?
Member Tyson votes aye. Member Corcoran? Aye. Member Kettle?
Aye.
Member Landstrom?
Aye.
Member Luzner? Aye. Member Peterson?
Aye.
And Member Rayfield?
Aye.
All ayes.
Motion passes. We'll move to 10.10, resolution approving long-term facilities maintenance revenue plan for Forest Lake area schools, Independent School District 831.
So long-term facility maintenance revenue is used for capital expenditures and maintenance projects that are necessary to prevent further erosion of facilities, accessibility, and other health and safety projects. I previously highlighted some of the larger projects, but we might be doing concrete work at other schools. We might be doing roof patching, roof repair as opposed to replacement. So there's all sorts of small projects below the $100,000 level beyond the things we've mentioned earlier. In order to qualify for this revenue, we need to forward a 10-year plan to the Department of Education. And we ask that you approve our 10-year spending plan. I can tell you that we're going to be addressing cash flow and other topics at the next finance meeting. We're going to be asking Ellers and Associates to come in and talk about how we smooth out the taxes for our taxpayers as we go from 5 million to 7 million to 5 million. It's really an interesting process. So they'll most likely be back doing some small bonding in conjunction with our long-term facilities maintenance revenue program. But we'd ask you to approve this and look for further action items on this topic.
Pleasure with 10.10 or 8.10?
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion and second. Discussion? Hearing none, Member Clerk, please take a roll call.
Member Rayfield?
Aye.
Member Tyson votes aye. Member Corcoran?
Aye.
Member Kettle?
Aye.
Member Landstrom?
Aye.
Member Luzner? Aye. And Member Peterson?
Aye.
All ayes.
We'll move to 8.11, monthly building substitute proposal. Dr. Massey.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good news is our teacher absence rate has dramatically improved from earlier this year. This year, you'll recall, the board approved 11 daily subs permanently stationed in our different schools to be readily available to cover absences and have that service and mechanism in place to cover those uncovered classrooms. It was a lifesaver on many, many days. Those folks this year were paid at $180 a day, which is above and beyond the typical sub rate of $135 a day, in order to get people to commit to every day throughout the year, same school, unless the sub wasn't needed and they were redeployed or deployed to a different school. I think it's fair to say that due to the worker shortage and shortage with subs, that we are going to have a challenge again next year. Maybe not to the magnitude, but we're going to have a challenge again next year. With that in mind, and with the availability of remaining one-time dollars through ESSER and COVID relief funds, we think it would be wise to approve 6 positions as daily subs next year, primarily serving our elementary schools. And then at the secondary level, we've got prep time and other ways that we can cover classrooms. And we'll assess whether or not the need is there at the secondary level, and we'll address it. We have limited funds moving into next year, but we do have some that would be wise to approve up to 6 positions at this time going into next year, so we can get those folks locked in. With that, administration recommends approval.
Your pleasure with 811.
I think it's a great idea. Okay. I do too.
Discussion?
Questions? Is there statistics on how these positions were used over the past year? I mean, not every single day, but making sure that they were busy every day, so we didn't have anyone just sitting around. I don't think that's true, but was that record kept?
Yeah, they were used in some schools every day. I'm aware at Columbus Elementary, there were 7 days during the year that the sub wasn't needed. And rather than calling that person off, she assisted with small groups and assisted kids in various ways.
And so my second question is, how often did they end up being redeployed? So that more or less answers it.
Other schools very rarely.
Okay.
Yeah, very rarely.
I just want to add that I think it takes a lot of stress off the system too. When we have these people plugged in, it makes that consistency in the student's day critical. They have that same subs, they're not having these different subs engaging and coming and going. So just that consistency in the classroom for the learning is, to me, just worth it. And my neighbor who's been fulfilling this position, she's committed to it. And she was kind of not sure, she's got a family too, but she's loved it and it's worked out great. She's felt really incorporated and included in the culture of the teacher group, and so I just think it's a win-win. Yeah.
I think too, it's important that, these help ensure that our current staff get their prep times, right? Instead of having to grab them at the last minute and have them cover. So I definitely think it's important that we fulfill this. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Member Clerk?
Member Peterson?
Aye.
Member Rayfield?
Aye.
Member Tyson votes aye. Member Corcoran?
Aye.
Member Peto?
Abstain.
And Member Landstrom?
Aye.
And Member Leisner?
Also abstain.
Motion passes. We'll move on to new business. First reading, preview 22-23 budget. Director Martinez.
Thank you. So the budget's been developed in accordance with the assumptions and parameters recommended by the District Finance Committee and the school board. The general fund is 80% people, so when we sit in executive session and we discuss contract negotiations, those are the parameters and the assumptions that we work on in developing the updated budget. Likewise, that impacts food service, which is 50% people, and community education, which is well over 60%. That's a big part of our operation is people. We are now in a position to assume the legislature won't make any changes. So this budget is based on current law. It has no estimates of what might come out of a potential conference committee. We'll keep a watchful eye on them. They need to conclude their work May 23rd. So we also know that the governor has stated he will not operate a special session. You never know what will happen. What is presented to you is a balanced general fund, a slightly revenue positive food service fund, and a planned drawdown for community education. This is simply a first reading, and I can stand for any questions that you might have.
Do you have any questions? Sounds good. We'll move to 9.2, first reading, search of student lockers, desks, personal possessions, and students' person policy 514. Dr. Massey.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The policy committee has spent time reviewing and updating this policy. You'll see the recommended changes on page 2 and 3 of the policy, primarily related to procedures for school searches of locker rooms and so on and so forth. So take a close look at those, and we'll be seeking your approval at the next meeting.
Dr. Massey, any questions, concerns, comments? We'll move on to 9.3, first reading wellness policy 546. Dr. Massey?
By way of background, all school districts that participate in the National School Lunch and School Breakfast programs are required by the Hunger-Free Kids Act of 2010 to have a wellness policy that includes standards and nutrition guidelines for foods and beverages made available to students on campus during the school day, as well as specific goals for nutrition promotion and education, physical activity, and other school-based activities that promote student wellness. And really, the only recommended change there, in addition to some language updates, is the deletion of item 3 on page 5, which essentially is redundant language in the policy. We'll seek your approval at the first meeting in June.
Comments, questions? Seeing none, we'll move on to 9.4, first reading dissolution of Equity Alliance, Minnesota Joint Powers Agreement. Dr. Massey.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. A lot of discussion and planning has gone into these particular motions that you see here that we won't be taking tonight, but we'll be taking at the mid-month meeting later this month. Member Rayfield sits on the Equity Alliance board and has a lot of the background on this as well. I'll make several points. One, the dissolution of Equity Alliance is related to some leadership challenges at Equity Alliance, as well as financial stability or instability and variability, and viability, frankly, of the organization. And I would also add, by way of clarification, that Equity Alliance was originally formed as the East Metro Integration School District. We have been a member for many, many years. I believe that the 501c3 status is under EMID, the East Metro Integration District versus Equity Alliance, as a title and as a name. We've received questions along the way on what services we've currently received through Equity Alliance. The 5th grade culturally responsive student leadership program, that will continue to the end of the year, as well as summer programming. We have not done an equity audit with Equity Alliance, have not done Equity Alliance surveys, received drafts with surveys, and respond to questions that they shouldn't be telling their parents about. We have never conducted any of those surveys either. So at the mid-month meeting, you'll be asking to take action on 2 items. One, the termination of the East Metro Integration District, which currently is titled Equity Alliance, and terminating the Joint Powers Agreement. And then, in addition to that, a modification of the current Joint Powers Agreement that has language indicating that if a member district withdrew their membership, they would not be eligible for any distribution of assets should the organization dissolve. So we need to modify that, as there's now been one district that got ahead of this work and actually submitted a letter for withdrawal due to the factors that I've listed here. So in fairness to those districts, adding language that essentially holds them harmless to that clause so that they would be eligible for those assets given this time frame. So that would be the second action taken at the mid-month meeting. I can certainly stand for the questions.
Questions? Comments?
I would also add that, I mean, the Equity Alliance has been a great organization. They've done a lot of good work over the years, and I know Member Moorhead was on there for many years and was a strong advocate for them. And, you know, what we've seen since the time when they dissolved from the two schools. You know, they had a big surplus and they've just been eating away. And I say they, but they're actually us. They're the school districts that are the members of the joint powers. You know, we've been trying to eat away that balance. Somewhere along the line, we thought that we could generate additional revenue, which would help the school districts as well with those services by doing equity audits. And the equity audits did not have the financial return. They did good work, right? Helping schools kind of understand where they were deficient in equity issues, but they were not returning, they were not able to bring in the income. Now you take that and you couple it with some of our best employees finding other opportunities. And, you know, as school districts, you know, we can look at it and say, well, we can find other ways to do those services and get that stuff taken care of without the joint powers. And I think that's what we're kind of looking at tonight, and just kind of dissolving it and saying, you know, let's do that, and let's do this. And it's important work, right? It's really important work for our district, but we just need to find another way to do it.
Thank you for that. And I would add that our membership is funded through our achievement and integration budget, which is largely funded through the state with a very small levy component. The funding requires a school partnership, student-school partnership. We will continue to seek those opportunities and continue to be eligible for achievement and integration funding. So it provides professional development, training for staff, programming and services for kids as well.
In reading about this, and this is from before my time altogether, I think that the Equity Alliance created a framework and a jumping off point that introduced equity to a lot of districts that needed it. And I think that as a district, we've embraced it. And so even diluting and dissolving this relationship does not change any of the commitment to equity as a district. It's in our own strategic plan. And as a society, there are a lot more resources now, like you said, that we can choose what fits best with us, and we'll be partnering with other districts that we can all grow together. Is that a good summation? That's what I'm trying to read through it.
That's well stated. We remain as committed as ever to providing a welcoming, inclusive environment for our kids, and we'll continue to be steadfast in that work.
Any further comments? Hearing none, we'll move on to 10:10, review the upcoming calendar dates, and at this time I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor of adjournment signify by aye.
Aye.